Y ahora, la ejecución del hino nacional de Brasil. E agora, a execução do hino nacional do Brasil.
There are only 2 unbeaten teams in the South American qualifying campaign for the FIFA 22 World Cup. And these are those. Brazil, 7 wins out of 7, top the group. Argentina are in 2nd spot. Both teams having won the first of their triple header of World Cup qualifiers. A couple of days ago, Brazil winning 1-0 against Chile, although they needed a late goal to do so. Argentina defeating Venezuela by 3-1. The Corinthians Stadium in Sao Paulo is the venue. And the threat by the Brazilian authorities to deport 4 of the players from Argentina for having been in the United Kingdom has not come to pass. There are the 2 captains, Casemiro and Lionel Messi. Only a handful of spectators inside this giant stadium, the home of Corinthians, a venue for the 2014 World Cup. Plenty of handshakes before the match in the tunnel, before the players came out, particularly Neymar, who was keen to say hello to everyone from the Argentine starting 11. Let's have a look then at the starting 11 for you. Brazil are without their best defender, arguably. Marquinhos is suspended, so Lucas Verissimo comes into central defence as one of 3 changes. Gerson starting in midfield. Everton Ribeiro, who scored the late winner against Chile after coming on as a substitute, is preferred to Vinicius Jr. Gabriel Barbosa and Neymar leading the attack. There are 3 changes for Argentina. Christian Romero and Gonzalo Montiel coming into defence. Leandro Paredes into midfield. Angel Di Maria scored the only goal in the Copa America final win over Brazil in July. If Lionel Messi scores, he will equal Pele's total of 77 international goals, the most by a South American. And the Brazilian authorities' threat to deport the 4 UK-based players has not materialised, and 3 of them start tonight. Emiliano Martinez in goal, Romero and Giovanni Lo Celso. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, local time in Sao Paulo in Brazil. Argentina, the visitors. Brazil 6 points ahead of Argentina in the South American World Cup qualifying table. 21 points for Brazil with 7 wins out of 7, something that they have never done before in any previous qualifying campaign. Argentina with 4 wins and 3 draws from their 7 games so far. 15 points for them. And an early foul for the challenge there on Lo Celso. Brazil, who have never lost in 59 previous home World Cup qualifiers. 12 of those have ended in draws, the other 47 ending in victories. Both teams in their familiar and famous colours. Early touch then for Emiliano Martinez. It's kept alive on this near side by Montiel. Alexandro. And here's Weverton, goalkeeper who won a gold medal at the 2016 Olympic Games, but is in the team today because Edison, first choice goalkeeper, and Alisson Becker not released by their clubs in the English Premier League. Here's Montiel. Di Maria. Just able to turn it back to Montiel. It was a heartfelt hug between Neymar and Di Maria in the tunnel as the teams were preparing to come out. 2 teammates at PSG, as is of course now Lionel Messi. 76 international goals for the Argentine superstar. Pelé got 77. He is the all-time South American top scorer in international football. Messi will join him on 77 should he score today. Militao. Paul. No way through there for Montiel. This is Danilo. Checked. The right back who made his debut against Argentina in the Super Classico back in 2011. Di Maria picks up, but it's a free kick, foul. And Argentina less than impressed with the challenge there. And has left Militao in a heap on the floor. It's Christian Romero who's being spoken to. Argentina were on the end of a dreadful challenge in their international qualifier against Venezuela the other day. Lionel Messi caught by Luis Martinez of Venezuela. It is widely been shared on the internet and is absolutely horrific to look at. The Venezuelan man sent off for that. Quite rightly so. Neymar with a little flick. Here's Neymar again. No free kick, right under the nose of the referee, and Neymar takes immediate retaliation. Challenge on Paredes. You see, the referee couldn't have been closer to the action had he tried.
Doutor, a gente está na televisão, a gente não pode fazer isso. A gente não pode fazer isso. A gente não pode fazer isso. A gente tem que jogar. A gente no intervalo vai fazer isso com o senhor. Já dá uma palavra do senhor. Já dá uma palavra do senhor. No intervalo.
As you can hear, earnest conversations on the sidelines. Well, what happens quite a lot in Brazil is that members of the media are allowed to be pitch side, and it may well be that that gentleman in the grey tabard has just been escorted away. Rather an unnecessary distraction. And now there are plenty more getting involved, as you can see. Well, there's always needle in this match. Messi just asking his teammates to just move away. Does all seem to be a storm in a teacup. And as you can see, it's more involving the off-field officials, which there do seem to be quite a few. I do wonder here, and this is pure speculation, whether those officials are from the Brazilian Public Health. Remember, before the game, a couple of hours before the game, it became common knowledge that the Brazilian Public Health authorities were trying to deport 4 of the Argentine squad, those players who had travelled from the United Kingdom. They're based with Premier League clubs. They say they weren't complying with Brazilian health regulations regarding the COVID pandemic. Brazil without 9 players themselves who were prevented from travelling to South America by their clubs, but 4 players, Emiliano Martinez and Emiliano Buendia, who isn't involved tonight, from Aston Villa, and Giovanni Lo Celso and Christian Romero, who both play for Tottenham, were permitted to travel. And the Brazilian authorities said that they should be deported because they hadn't complied with regulations. Now, travel for elite sports people within South America is permitted. Travel for players who have come from outside South America is not permitted. The rules state that there should be 14 days quarantine for those 4 players based in the UK. Now, it does look as though the referee and the players are going to make their way off the field of play. Brazilian bureaucracy can be a nightmare, as anyone who was at the 2014 World Cup will attest. But we are having a significant delay to this match. And it was indeed, I have had it confirmed that it is officials from the Brazilian health authorities who have come onto the pitch. And it means that Argentina have now left. This could be described as a total farce, because it wasn't unknown that those players in the Argentina squad have travelled from the UK. And it would seem that those Brazilian health officials have decided that they are going to try and deport those Argentine players while they are on the field of play, or at least make them quarantine. So it all kicked off very early on in this game. Neymar's trying to have his say. Now the referee is leaving the pitch as well, leaving the Brazilian players out there. And this could take quite some time to sort out. We will try and get more information for you as soon as we possibly can. But as the Brazilian social media says, quite succinctly, jogo interrompido, game interrupted. You can say that again. Well, it's not only health officials, it's also Brazilian federal police who have walked onto the pitch, and they've stopped the match to try and detain those 4 Argentinian players who have entered the country. It's almost surreal, this. The Argentina social media official channels is saying for the moment the match is interrupted. Again, that's a significant understatement. There is an argument, and it is an argument that has a lot of validity, that the Copa America matches in the summer should have also counted as World Cup qualifiers, because the South American World Cup qualifiers are trying to catch up with themselves. That's the reason we've got 3 to be played this month. That's the reason we've got 3 to be played next month, and extra dates at the start of next year, at the end of January and in early February. And the problems of trying to maintain the full fixture list in South American qualifying, where the 10 teams will play each other home and away, so 18 fixtures for all 10 teams, and trying to squeeze that into the congested calendar is a logistical problem. Could also be argued with a lot of validity that if the authorities knew what they were going to do, i.e. come onto the pitch with the game just a couple of minutes old, why did they let the match start in the first place? Why didn't they just march into the dressing room area and conduct their business underneath in the stadium itself? Maybe this is for maximum publicity, who knows? So the facts are, we kicked off and we've played a few minutes. Whether we will play any more minutes is a moot point. Gabriel Barbosa there, Gabigol, the man from Flamengo. And of course what this does mean is that if, and although it's a small word, it's a big if this match does resume, everybody's going to need to warm up again. Everybody is going to need to get prepared again. Well, this is bound to have repercussions. Not only now in Sao Paulo, but presumably for the rest of the World Cup qualifying campaign. The South American football authorities, FIFA, will all have to get involved. Extraordinary scenes. So the Brazilian players wait. We're not getting pictures from down below in the dressing room area. Presumably there is earnest discussions going on down there, if not even more than that. Brazil, who are without 9 players who are based in England, prevented from travelling by their clubs, including Ederson, Thiago Silva, Fred, Richarlison, Gabriel Jesus, Alisson. There are a few players who were withdrawn by their clubs in Russia as well, so this Brazilian squad is very much a domestic-based one, by and large on the bench. Messi looks okay. But the main question, and I repeat this, is why didn't the Brazilian health officials do this before the match started? It was first reported about 2 hours or so before kickoff. There was plenty of time. Now, the traffic in Sao Paulo, as any of you who have been there, well, that's horrific, the traffic. But nevertheless, they knew this game was on, they knew the kickoff time, they knew what was going to happen. So Dani Alves coming out there with Lionel Messi. There's Neymar. Chiche there, the Brazilian coach. Argentina's point of view will presumably be, well, if 3 of our starting 11 are going to be hauled away, what are we going to do? These players who know each other so well, quite a few of them teammates at club level, huge respect between them.
Não vou jogar porque está certo pagado antes. Assim como chega agora, não.
Y la FIFA y todo lo que nos pusieron
pero
problemas.
lo hicieron de una manera equivocada, pero avisaron antes que los jugadores estaban irregulares. Avisaron antes, me decía que no avisaron. Messi,
Nosotros llegamos acá, niños, ¿por qué no fueron a buscarlo al hotel? ¿Por qué no lo fueron a buscar a los seguros?
te lo digo administrativamente. La federación a 20 días atrás.
Yo te hago una consulta. ¿Están fuera de regla? ¿Están fuera de regla?
Earnest and rather heated conversations.
La Conmebol dijo puede jugar, se acabó. No me busques donde no hay, te lo pido por favor.
Están regulares.
Hace 3 días que estaban esperando empezar el partido para venir. ¿Por qué no avisaron antes? Si no pasó un aviso.
Well, it was a match that promised so much. Brazil, Argentina, the two powerhouses of South American football, both of whom will surely qualify for the World Cup in Qatar. But it might be an even more long, drawn-out process than it is actually in reality. If this game is not to go ahead, when is it to be played? If it does not go ahead, do FIFA award the points to one team or the other, or is it a match that is null and void, which you can't really have? Remember, both teams will qualify. The top 4 in South America qualifying automatically for the next World Cup, with the 5th place team going into a playoff, an intercontinental playoff. Now, Lionel Scaloni, Chiche, Messi, Neymar Jr. all involved. And meanwhile, the real action, or the other action, to be more correct, is happening down below. I can bring you no information as to what is happening down in the dressing room area. These are quite extraordinary scenes. And it appears that there is no quick resolution to this situation.
Nosotros podemos decir juega, Conmebol dice no,
These conversations may well continue for quite some time. Well, these are scenes that will provoke headlines around the world. Mainly because it is Brazil against Argentina. With all due respect, had it been, say, Peru against Venezuela, it wouldn't have had the same worldwide impact that it will do. So has a decision been made? A resolution to this situation. Dani Alves and Messi there, going back down the tunnel together. To play or not to play? That is the question. Obviously, public health is hugely, hugely important. But it's a virtually empty stadium, just a small crowd in. And it is the intervention of the Brazilian public health officials which has caused the problems, in inverted commas. They will say that in declaring where they'd been for the last 10 days or so, the 4 Argentine players based in England didn't disclose the full information. Having said that, though, isn't it pretty obvious where they were before flying to South America? This is a situation that you feel could and should have been easily avoided. We should have played just over half an hour of a enthralling World Cup qualifier. The Argentine social media feed has just put out that the match between Brazil and Argentina has been suspended, which we kind of knew. Dani Alves there, who at 38 became the oldest player, the male player to win an Olympic Games gold medal when Brazil successfully defended their title in Japan at the recent Olympic Games. It was suggested before the Copa America that those matches there should double up as World Cup qualifiers, but that suggestion was never activated. Of course, there were two separate groups to go through to the knockout stages in that tournament, but it would have involved a large rejigging of matches, but it was definitely doable. Just didn't take place. Twenty-five to 5 in the afternoon, local time in Sao Paulo. So we have got plenty of time should this match eventually be restarted, but the longer this goes on, the more you feel that it will not do so. Now, the official reason has just been given as well. The match has been suspended for the failure to follow health regulations, which relates to the 4 Argentine players who came via Venezuela, starting their journey in England. As usual with these matters, there's all sorts of people who don't seem to have much to do with what is actually going on down in the tunnel area. If you have just joined us, well, it's been a sensational last 35 minutes or so. The match kicked off on time. We had a couple of tasty challenges. All was looking good for an entertaining World Cup qualifier between Brazil and Argentina, but then public health officials entered the field of play with a view to try to stop the match for a failure to follow health regulations. Forgive me if you've heard this before, but there are people who will be joining us. 4 of the players in the Argentine squad, 3 of whom started tonight. Emiliano Martinez of Aston Villa, Giovanni Lo Celso of Tottenham, and his Tottenham teammate Christian Romero, plus Emiliano Buendia, also of Aston Villa, who's not involved but is in the travelling squad. Apparently broke Brazilian health regulations by failing to declare that they had been in England before coming to South America. And it became apparent about 2 hours before kickoff that those health officials were trying to deport those 4 players or put them into quarantine. To deport them was more the stronger line that came out, because they had broken health regulations by not declaring they'd been in England. However, they are with English clubs. They played recently in England, in the Premier League, so it was mind-numbingly obvious that they'd been in England. And play has now been suspended for around 35 minutes. So it is essentially the players from Tottenham and Aston Villa who are at the centre of this situation. Brazilian health authorities essentially are accusing them of not telling the truth with regards to COVID protocol. So the game has been suspended. That is what Argentina have officially said on their social media channels. But suspended is not the same as abandoned. Now we are getting word that the traffic authorities in Sao Paulo are now organising for a coach to take the Argentine squad away from the stadium. What their destination might be, we do not know. That is not official, that is just what we are hearing from the stadium. And if that is the case, then that means that this match will be abandoned. However, I must stress that is not an official line from the South American football authorities or from either the Brazilian or Argentine FA. As I mentioned earlier, if you've been to Sao Paulo, you know that the traffic is horrendous, so it might take some time for that to actually take place. Which reminds me, since we've got time to fill, the 2014 World Cup. There was a match here between the Netherlands and Chile, which the Netherlands won by 2-0, and I was fortunate enough to be there working for FIFA on the official television broadcast, the broadcast that is seen right around the world, providing English language commentary for those countries that required it. Our pictures were going to every single TV station in the world that were broadcasting the World Cup. After the game, we got on the coach, which was branded as FIFA TV. And for some reason, the Sao Paulo police thought that we were part of FIFA itself, as opposed to being just the people who produced the TV pictures. And they waved us into a convoy to go to Sao Paulo airport, which is where we were heading. And that convoy was with the two teams. And we made our way through the traffic in Sao Paulo, escorted by police cars aplenty, motorcyclists in probably about 100 of them, with blue lights flashing and everything. The traffic parted as if we were Moses in the Red Sea, And we got to the airport, a journey which should take about 2 hours and 20 minutes from this stadium. We got to the airport in about 40 minutes, and we pulled up behind the Dutch team coach and the Chilean team coach. Quite extraordinary. That was nothing, though, compared to this. You can see there the Argentine players are being led away to their dressing room area. Shirts have been swapped. And that may well indicate that we have some sort of finality. So we stand and we wait for news of any updates.
Está tentando salvar eles ainda.
Still no official word from down below. It is only the players from the United Kingdom who are based in England who are accused of breaching Brazilian COVID protocols. Those from other parts of Europe, Italy, Spain, France, where of course Neymar plays, Di Maria, Messi. They're not implicated in any way, shape or manner about this. It is only the 4 Argentine players who are with the English Premier League clubs. Emiliano Martinez and Emilio Buendia of Aston Villa, and Giovanni Lo Celso and Christian Romero of Tottenham Hotspur. What I'm sure is a definite topic of conversation is why, when Argentina have been in Brazil for a couple of days now, travelling from Venezuela, why it took until a few minutes after the game had kicked off for the health officials to make their move. They've been at a hotel. They've been training. There's been media conferences at which players spoke. Now that may well have been a virtual media conference. But the mere fact is that Argentina have been in Brazil for some time, since travelling from their World Cup qualifier away in Venezuela. So why did the health officials wait until a few minutes into the match before making their very public move? So still we wait for anything official. To come from the authorities. Whether that be the government authorities of Brazil or the health authorities or indeed the football authorities. If we are to restart, and somehow, let's face it, you're probably a bit like me, you're thinking, we're not going to restart. If we are going to restart, well, it's going to take some time for everybody to warm up again, get ready to play. The fact that this match has, as of now, been suspended for around 3/4 of an hour, and we still have no official decision as to whether it is abandoned or whether it will go ahead. Means that everybody is basically just standing around and waiting. So just to put a little bit more detail behind what the Brazilian health authorities are saying, the 4 players based in the Premier League in England, Martinez, Buendia, Lo Celso and Romero, have essentially been accused of failing to disclose that they'd spent time in the UK prior to their arrival, in the 14 days prior to their arrival in Brazil. And this relates to a government order which dates from late June of this year, which prohibits the entry into Brazilian territory of anyone from the United Kingdom, India or South Africa, in order to prevent the spread of variants of COVID-19. And it was all tied up with the fact that 9 Brazilian players based in the Premier League in England failed to travel to South America following objections from their clubs. It may well be that those Brazilian players are now receiving a definitive statement on what is happening. It may not be. What is absolutely certain is that this has already caused headlines around the world and will continue to do so. Remember, we've had reports, unconfirmed reports, that transport has been arranged to take the Argentine players away from the stadium, and it may well be that they might be heading straight to the airport if, and I stress if, that is the case. Well, are Brazil actually going to warm up now? Might this be a positive sign? If the match is abandoned, can they give us a five-a-side? That would be marvellous, wouldn't it? The Brazilian national team is a bit like a travelling circus. I remember back in 2006, prior to the World Cup in Germany, Brazil held a training camp in Switzerland, in the village of Vegas, which is on the side of Lake Lucerne, and 5,000 people turned up to a training session every single day. We were there televising it, and it went to over 100 countries. Well, until we see somebody in an Argentina shirt emerge from that door, who knows what is happening. That training camp in Switzerland, incidentally, was actually blamed for Brazil's poor performance in Germany. It was a bit of a circus. There was a stadium built, a 5,000-seater stadium, which was temporary stands, rather like you'd see at a golf tournament, a major golf event. And people came to Vegas from all over the place to watch Brazil training. And it was all great fun. And it was all televised, and then one day it was raining hard, and Brazil was supposed to start at, say, 10:30, can't remember the precise time. And I just spotted the three goalkeepers going off to the indoor gym because it was raining, and raining heavily. And then the outfield players emerged from the dressing room. It didn't come across the pitch, they came across the hidden walkway, which we could see from our position. And they headed to the indoor gymnasium as well. So we were broadcasting live when absolutely nothing was happening. And yes, I'm getting a sense of déjà vu. Dybala there on the right. Well, if you're getting your hopes up that we might be able to restart this game in a moment, I'm hearing, and I must stress that this is not confirmed as yet, but I'm hearing that Argentina are preparing to leave the stadium on a bus, and Brazil are going to hold a training session instead. So the match will be abandoned, but that as yet is not official and has not yet been confirmed. It would make sense for Brazil to have a training session. They are at home to Peru in the third of their 3 World Cup qualifiers. All 3 goalkeepers are out. Weverton, Santos and Everson. Quite where this leaves Argentina now is to be determined, because they are at home in their next World Cup qualifier. They're at home to Bolivia, so presumably if they are departing Brazil, they will fly home to play their match against Bolivia. Now the return could be interesting. That is currently scheduled for November of this year in Argentina. If Brazil are to have a training session, you might think they'd concentrate a little bit on shooting, because they've scored only 3 goals in their last 4 matches. 1-0 in the quarter-final of the Copa America against Chile. 1-0 in the semi-final of the Copa America against Peru. Then they lost 1-0 to Argentina in the final of the Copa America. Those 2 goals in the quarter-final and the semi-final were both scored by Lucas Paqueta, incidentally. And then a 1-0 win away to Chile just a few days ago. Everton Ribeiro getting the goal. Now, CONMEBOL, the governing body of football in South America, have just put out on their social media channels that by the decision of the match referee, the match organised by FIFA between Brazil and Argentina in the World Cup qualifiers is suspended. Now, quite what suspended means in this context. Queda suspendido. They add that the referee and the match commissioner will submit a report to the FIFA disciplinary committee, which will determine the steps to be followed. These procedures strictly adhere to current regulations. They then continue. The World Cup qualifiers is a FIFA competition. All decisions concerning its organisation and development are the exclusive power of that institution, i.e. FIFA. Now, if by suspended they mean abandoned, then that is the case, but at the moment, still quite not yet some official confirmation that the match has been officially abandoned. I suspect you're of the same mind that I am, that this match is not going to restart. Tell you what, though, the viewing figures in Brazil won't go down significantly for this training session. Globo, the national television network in Brazil, will continue to put out these pictures, and people will continue to watch as well in large numbers.
Não deixa ele ter problema. É, então.
Hearing unconfirmed reports, which we hope to confirm for you very shortly, that this match, in the words of an official, will not be played today. Just waiting for official confirmation of that the game has been abandoned. Whether that means that it will be rearranged for tomorrow, but can it be? Thursday into Friday is the date for the third and final World Cup qualifiers in this three-match series of South American World Cup qualifiers for all 10 teams. So while we're waiting for official confirmation, as journalists and broadcasters are quite often asked what it's like to watch a training session. We're usually allowed in for 15 minutes at the start of a training session, ahead of, say, a Champions League game or a World Cup game. And quite frankly, those 15 minutes are usually a waste of time in terms of seeing any action, because this is all we see. What it does do is it gives us a chance to have a look at certain teams if we don't know them, and to identify who might have what physical characteristics in case we have to identify them quickly, which obviously as a television commentator you have to do. You just then hope that they don't, for example, change their hairstyle overnight. So if you work out there, for example, that the number 9 for Brazil, Gabriel Barbosa, who's a fairly distinctive figure anyway, but if he has that distinctive haircut shaved off in the 24 hours between training and the actual match, it can be a bit problematical. Still waiting on official confirmation as to whether this match has been abandoned for the day, but that is what we are hearing. But that is not as yet confirmed.